What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your man's Mr. Dominic Cruz, featured on ABC, NBC, CBS, Yahoo, and Fox, coming at you with another episode on how to move on of how to move on with Mr. Dominic Cruz. And I have a special treat for you guys today. I'm gonna be interviewing a lovely woman, and I'm just gonna get straight into this. Before I get into this whole thing, how many of us like go into, you know, before, COVID was going on, we all went into barbershops, ladies went into the salons, and, that was their space. That was their safe space to talk about what was going on with them. It was like it was like something that was like took a burden off their shoulders, and they just feel so much better after they leave, the salon or the barbershop. But this particular woman that I'm going to interview, that I'm inviting onto this podcast, you're gonna love her. All right. She is a TEDx speaker. All right. She's a beauty guru, and she's on a mission to help beauty brands to tell their story. She guides you to discover, the why behind your beauty routine within a holistical approach. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Elizabeth Molina. Elizabeth, you there?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. I'm pretty sure wherever you are right now, you're just enjoying the day, feeling really good. Is that right?
Oh my God, yes. Oops. And I'm so sorry about that. Those are my dogs that thought I had under control.
You know what? That's fine. Your dogs are just as excited as we both are.
Yeah.
And you know what? Would do you prefer Elizabeth or Liz? You
You
know,
know, that's so funny that you ask. I prefer anything that's in the vicinity of my name. I like Elizabeth, but people have called me Betty, Beth, Liz, Lizbeth, Lizzie, E. So I'm really not too picky as long as it's like similar to my name.
you have a lot of names then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Elizabeth.
Oh God, a little bit or a lot.
You can go ahead. The floor is yours.
So, as I am known as the beauty guru, and I have a passion for beauty. So, I guess I want to start off with that. Growing up, beauty as a woman, as a human, it's always been very important to people. People always judge a book by its cover, even though we're taught not to judge a book by its
Hmm.
cover. So I guess I'll start from there and telling you a little bit about myself and my background. Um, I come from immigrant parents. I am Latina, and in the culture, it is heavily influenced in beauty. So my
Oh
passion
yeah.
came from there. Obviously, moving on in school, I excelled. I always wanted to be an overachiever, being that my parents didn't speak English and they could never help me with homework.
Where were your
So,
parents from? If you don't, sorry.
my mom is Peruvian and my dad is Dominican Israeli.
Ooh, that's very okay. I like the little mix that we got going on, but go on, go on.
So I think, that says that, I was an overachiever. Like I wanted to be the best in everything that I did. And so, was an honor roll through all different schools that I went to, boarding schools, even in college as well. Just excelled at all my studies. I went into pharma because I had a passion for medicine. I would love to help people. Ended up in sales because I don't know if it's my background. I have a lot of charm. I think we all do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I
I
ended
hear
up
the
in.
charm. I hear the charm when I speak to you. I was like, oh, she's very charm. She's cool. I like that. It's just that energy that you bring out, and it's just something about it where it's just like, "Hey, she's really cool people." It's like I like the vibes.
Thank you. Yeah, so moving forward, I mean, sales is really like something that I excel in, and so it's hard to describe me as a person because I think I wear so many hats, but I would say that sales and beauty is something that comes to me very naturally. I don't know if that has to do with me adapting to the world. I have no idea, but it's just, I love it. So I was in sales for a long time, and then I felt that there was a need in my whole career. So I'll back up a little bit and say that I started modeling at the age of 5, here and there, and I still do modeling and gigs on the side whenever, I have time for them. So
Hmm.
in my career, even though I was really smart and intellectual in the science field, people never noticed that. Like when I would go on interviews or I would do speaking panels, the
Hmm.
men that would interview me would be more concerned about like how was it in the modeling industry, or like, what do you eat? And I'm like, that's not related to like my degree in biochemistry or how many millions of
No.
dollars in sales I can bring you in the next few weeks. Like, how is that related? Um,
Right.
yeah, so I realized that people were fascinated by beauty, and everywhere that I went to, like I have, been in rooms with surgeons, boards of medical groups for the I live in New York, so for like the board of New York, like the state board of New York, and like in every conversation, it would mostly not be about medicine. It was like 20% medicine,
Hmm.
80% like, so, how can you help me with my skin? You look really good. Like, what do you do? Can you help me? I'm so lost. And I was like, I had a passion for that. So I started like, deviating away from that because I wasn't feeling
Uh-huh.
fulfilled. And I started going towards the beauty. And I realized that there are so many professionals out there. And even doing my TED talk, I was on the stage with some rock star people. And at the end of the day, I was worried about my speech and not worried about what I was wearing or my makeup or my looks. And they were the opposite. They were like, I got my speech down. Like, I'm like a scientist, or I'm an author, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, they're like, I don't like the way that I feel, that I look. And every single person was freaking out, asking me to help them. So I realized there was a gap. There's a gap in there. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, Tony Robbins, Oprah, there's a glam squad. And I know people underrate makeup and the beauty industry. And it doesn't have to just be makeup and skin. Like, we were talking about barbershops, and there's so many different parts of makeup and the beauty industry and wellness,
Hmm.
that during the pandemic people have been really affected with that communication that, you mentioned earlier. Like, even guys, when they go to the barbershop, right, like, you guys
Oh
are
yeah.
talking, reminiscing, complaining, and then maybe, like, I don't know, I'm not in barbershops, but I could imagine, like, if it's anything like a salon for women or any of the beauty services, like, that's kind of therapeutic, right?
Yeah, no, and you know what? I really miss going to the barber shop. Like I'm not gonna lie, during this whole pandemic, well, I guess in the last half of the year, I grew my hair out. Like it's like the longest it's ever been. I know the barbers are gonna be, I'm like, I know the barbers are gonna be ecstatic when I go back to the barber shop and they're gonna be like zzz, cutting it off.
Yeah.
But I really love how you told me that, because I didn't think of it as like, very therapeutic until you mentioned it. Because every time I went to a barbershop, it felt liberating. It felt like you were in a different family and it just accepted you, and it was just different. And, just to talk, you know, with the guys and, just be guys and have fun and stuff like that. I really loved how you touched up on that whole thing.
Yeah, and it goes back to connection. And I think if we learned anything from 2021, I mean, sorry, 2020 and now going into 2021, is that not only are we humans and people, but we need like connection, we need community, we need to be in a space where we can exchange energy, whether that is like now, there's a club called there's an app called Clubhouse, and like people are connecting and people are feeling better, they feel like they're clubbing, or just like different ways of connecting and finding your community and your group. Like you said, in your barbershop, you went
Hmm.
in and you maybe saw people that looked like you, people that may have, maybe speak the same slang as you do, that have the same interests, right? So that you feel like, oh, I
Right.
fit in. It feels so good. Now I'm with my people. Like, you kind of release your energy, you exchange. You might even talk about a problem that you couldn't talk to other people about, because it's so easy to talk to strangers versus people you have to see all the time, right?
Yep. Yeah, yeah, definitely. No. And you mentioned on the club on Clubhouse, I was actually telling people on the last episode, they should be on Clubhouse because,
Right.
to be honest, like you will find like-minded people, and if anybody who is Latino or Hispanic, and Latino and all that, and they felt like they're lost with their culture, they don't feel
Mm-hmm.
like they're in touch with their culture. It is a perfect opportunity to get in touch with your culture and really meet like-minded people. And I highly encourage everybody to get on Clubhouse because it is amazing.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you were a TEDx speaker. Tell
Yes.
me about that.
Oh goodness. Uh, so I had a secret, right? Like I do all
Hmm.
these things. Like I haven't been public about myself. Like if you Google me, you're not gonna find many things about me. I was the kind of person who is the opposite of today's like model or Instagram model influencer, whatever you want to call
Okay.
guru, right? I was like anti PR. Like get my name off of there, take my stuff down, do not tag me, don't take pictures with me. Like all my friends are like, I don't have any pictures of you, what the hell. So I was that person, right? And no one really knew why, and they're like, you're so shady. So there was a story that I had in me, right, about a personal
Hmm.
story, and you know a little bit about it.
Right, right. You
Yeah,
comfortable to talk about it?
huh?
You comfortable to talk about it?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, I
Awesome.
did a TEDx about it, so it's good.
All right. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking me. I love that that's really nice and sweet when the host is, asking you, are you comfortable? Like, let's go there. If not, that's okay, totally. And I'll
Yeah,
share with you the
definitely.
link when it's completely out because it's still under review because it's such a powerful story. They need to like confirm everything, like they cross check. Since
Yeah.
TED is a big stage, like they need to make sure, like, is the timeline correct? Like, is there something to prove that? So like everything is fact checked. So like you can't go on there and say something that's not true. So they're still like fact checking some things, which have to provide documentation and things like that. So anyway, so yeah, so I had a story to tell, and especially coming from such a conservative background, where like I don't
Hmm.
know about you, but like in for me growing up, it was like you don't talk about your problems, you don't share your problems, no one knows what you're going through. Like you're just quiet, you put on a smile, you act happy, you pretend nothing is
Yeah.
wrong.
Hmm.
Everything is hunky dory, and like no one knows what's happening inside, and that's like very common. I want to say like in conservative backgrounds, especially in Latino homes. I don't know if there's a lot of shame around that, and like there's just so much to unpack that I think we're gonna need like 10 episodes really. so so I had the story for about 16 years, something that I went through in my life that I was very hesitant to share. And after doing a lot of healing and therapy and work with clients and just seeing how much my story has impacted my people that are very
Hmm.
successful around me, I was like, okay, I feel comfortable. There's proof. The proof is in the pudding. Like I am freaking doing this thing. I'm like an undercover Tony Robbins, like female version, and no one knows about it. And like
Right.
now I feel safe to talk about it. So the story is, um, I was 16 years old. I was engaged by my ex-husband who was 18 years my senior. I was married at 18, had a child at 18, divorced by 21. And before that divorce, I wanted some independence. I wanted to go to school, and being that my ex-husband came from a background where like it is very common, usually older men marry younger women, especially if they're financially stable. The woman doesn't work, stays in the home, and growing up as an American girl, first generation, I was taught like education, you need to be independent, like you need to do all these things. Like we didn't mesh well in that sense. But anyway, so
Right.
he didn't agree to that, and I'm like, oh well, I don't care. Then I'm gonna be an independent woman. And so he had convinced me to, go back to his country where we would travel, and we would live literally every 2 weeks. We would live in a different state because of his line of business. He was, a silent investor in huge and is still in big corporations. And so we were moving every 2 weeks to Florida, New York, Dominican Republic, Miami, Puerto Rico, and Mexico, just like on rotate. Like I would have, wardrobe everywhere. Like that was my life.
Right.
And so he had basically kidnapped me to another country with my baby
What?
for 6 months. where he, if anyone, if there are any children listening in the audience, if this is triggering, this is the moment to like skip 15 seconds. Um, he basically would like, rape me and beat me every day because he was trying to brainwash me into being like a
Jesus.
submissive woman. So I was able to escape that, convince him to bring me back to the States. And then I escaped with my baby, $25, and no one in my family or friends that would like support me because, in the community, it's like, oh, she'll go back. It's nothing. Like, what are you complaining about? You're living such a great life. You have a driver, you have a nanny, you have a cook, you have all these things. Like, you're in private jets. You're like 18 years old. What is wrong? Like 19 at that point in time already, right? Like, so
Right.
what that he hits you, so what that he wants to like not let you go to school or work. So there was a big stigma there, but I was able to do it all by myself with my
Hmm.
baby. And today I am here thriving, strong mentally, physically, and just here to help other women, and not just women, but I say humans. I want to give them the recipe to how I did that, because a lot of people go through things and they're like, I did it and I'm thriving, and here's my business model. And I'm here to tell you the opposite. I'm like, look, this is what I did to survive, and this is how you can also survive and thrive. So that's kind of the
And
story in a nutshell.
wow. And honestly, it's pretty insane on how that whole thing happened, and like, and then how family, well, people around you at the time, they said, don't worry, because they valued materialistic things for you more than, your happiness. And that's a big problem in a lot of communities, especially, in the Latin communities, because, well, because I've seen that a lot, and it really does hurt. And I can't imagine, how you were feeling, and like all these emotions were just hitting you all at once.
Oh my God. I can't tell you how many times I've cried. I just felt like I didn't fit in. I didn't understand. People were like easy to say to me, "Well, you should have known better." Like I was actually watching something the other day. What was I watching? I think it
Hmm.
was Joe Rogan, and yeah, I was watching Joe Rogan's Netflix 2018 show where he's talking about like a teenage boy in Florida, and how there was like an officer who like was undercover, 25-year-old officer who was in high school undercover, and she had him like sell him weed, and then she arrested him. And she's like, if it were backwards, if it was like a 25-year-old man seducing a 15-year-old girl to sell him weed, and like that would be like not taken well by society. And then
No.
he's like, I just question people who are like, well, he's 16, almost 17, close to 18, and he should have known better. And Joe Rogan is like, what the hell does a 16-year-old know, right? Like, how could you? So the same, I was like, wow, that was like so powerful for me to hear, because for my whole life, especially from the Spanish community, which is so weird because I guess it's so common, which is really sad. Everyone was like,
Hmm.
well, you should have known better. And I'm like, I was 15 when I met this person, 16. My parents are going through a divorce. Like, it was just, there was a lot of things that, made this like the right recipe for this to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going back to what you said, just people blaming you. You should have known better. You should have looked for the signs, or you should put up with it.
Right.
At least you're financially stable. It's better to be financially stable than to be in love and broke and fighting over finances. And so there's a lot of weird input and like not support. And even when you do tell the story, like in my experience to like the Spanish community that I have told in my private speaker programs and things like that, the feedback that I get from everyone else who's not of a Latino background is like, wow, like, they're impressed, or they're like feeling like they could relate, and how could this happen? And like, we have to do like help other women. But the women of my culture are just like, what happened to my cousin? Or that happened the other
Yeah.
day. Like, I know a girl, and actually, she like, we never found her body or something. Like, so what are you complaining about? And I'm just like, what in the world is happening?
I know it's weird. It like, especially in like the Latin community, it's super weird because, like, just how we respond to things. It's just sometimes it just doesn't make any sense, and that's troubling. I mean, I would say in the past, like I'll say definitely in the 90s, 80s, 70s, and 2000s, there was a lot of, you know Like, there's a lot of things that just like raise my eyebrows. Like,
Yeah.
damn, that was crazy. But since we're talking about obviously the show is called How to Move On, right? How are you able to move on from all that trauma that you've experienced into becoming this powerful woman that you are today?
You're asking some bomb ass questions. I've been interviewed so many times, and and people don't really ask these questions. They want to know how and how does it get there. And so, like, I love that you asked me
I
that
really value
because
my guests. That's why.
oh my gosh. I mean, honestly, I think, there's a switch that goes on, right? Like, you know, soon there will be a book about it and probably like some sort of movie that will come out and we'll go, it'll
I like the vision.
huh?
I like the vision. I like it.
Well, I've been approached several years back by some really big names who I've, bumped rooms with, and they're like, I like your story. I know about you. When you're ready to tell it, like, and I'm talking about like some like major people. They're like, we wanna share the story because this is a great story. Like, who would have thought that this would happen in America, like today, with an American born person? Because usually there's like different things that go into this, right? But
Right.
anyway, so to answer your question, oh my God, there's just so much there. I want to say that there's two things that happens when somebody goes into stress, and even like I say that we're all like animals, right? Like instinctually, we're all like rational animals. So like even if
Yep.
you could do this experiment with like rats or dogs or whatever, like when you corner an animal, there's two things that happens: either they fight back, or they give up. And so I think for me, being, that I had so many things to prove to myself, to my community, just like the way that I grew up, just trying to prove myself and like being enough, there was something that was triggered inside of me. Yes, there was a moment that I wanted to give up and like, why am I here? And like, that's a whole nother conversation that I talk a lot about. And then there was a switch that was like, oh, okay, I'm here for a reason, and maybe this is a test, or like I started looking at life as lessons. And I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
that's my lesson. Okay, let me get through this lesson. It sucks because it really sucks. But once I get through it, like what did I learn? How can I use this to help people? Because I'm a firm believer in that everything that we experience in life is to help other people who have experienced the same thing or not to like, or, not to have that experience. So for me, overcoming was like my rage, my anger, I mean, I can't, I have, I can't, I don't have enough words to describe all the feelings that I had, but I use that. So I feel like you can use it for two reasons. You can be destructive or you can be productive. And for me, I'm a
Ooh,
productive person.
I
So
love it.
yeah, so I was like, okay, either I can go and literally be a drug addict and like be a prostitute because like I literally like a lot of women who have been sexually abused that you don't have a value for your body. You feel like like you're just angry at your body and you want to hurt it more. Like there's just this pain that you can't describe. And so like you want to numb yourself and also hurt yourself at the same time. So like there's a combination of like addiction, drug, alcohol and like pain, and that's one way of being destructive. And the percentage of women who have experienced what I have, there's like a 90 something percentage of people who it's so hard to overcome, right? And then there's a few who have like something that switches on, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna use this rage as fuel to like move on. And for me, I was like, even though I escaped, I was still mentally trapped, right? So I'm like, I can't let this person win. And if I fail, they won. Even though I escaped, I'm still trapped. So my fuel was my way to get out was like I need to get better. I need to make myself better. What do I do? What's happening to me? Okay, PTSD. What am I experiencing? How can I fix it? Where do I need to look? And that's been my attitude always, like in life. Like, okay, what I need to see, what I need to do, how do I heal it? How do I move on? I need to go to the next chapter.
Hmm. Honest, I love how you broke it down those two routes. Like you have two
Mm-hmm.
choices. Either you become destructive or you become productive. I mean, that is powerful. And it's probably one of the things that I said, I said it a lot on my YouTube and, I said it a lot, especially on this podcast. And, I remember, going through, I remember going through like, a breakup once upon a time. And, just adjusting back to the single life it was just hard. And, and I remember making this decision. I was watching YouTube videos like how to get over someone. And I also watched another videos like how to get someone back. And oh my God, like like the emotional roller coaster that one can experience was just intense. And then, I remember making this decision after watching one video. I was like, listen, I understand I'm gonna be going through this heartache for a long time. I'm gonna go through a lot of emotional roller coaster through this entire process because I don't know what's going on, but I need to get out of this, and I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to become better. And that's the side where I said, I'm going to just use this to become productive. I'm going to, talk about this whole thing. I'm just going to be great.
Hmm.
I'm going to use the story. I'm just going to use this experience to become someone great. And what I love about your story in what you've done, you chose that route to become great, and you're still doing it to this day. And it's that it's really rare to meet someone like that because it's like a lot of people will choose that self-destructive because that's just the easy way out.
Hmm.
But it's easier to be more to be productive. But when you're depressed, it's like a big hole that people just want to stay there, and it's comfortable too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I just want to be clear also. Like, I feel like you'll hear this from people who have like even Tony Robbins. Like, I've done a lot of his live events when they were live and unleash yourself and all these things. And so I'll say something to that point. It sounds easy, right? And so if you listen to these people, and there's a lot of stuff that's free, even Les Brown, all these like amazing motivational speaker, and you'll hear them tell their story if you get a chance to look it up. And one thing that every single person says is that I hit rock bottom and I could no longer stand what I was feeling. And so I think that's like the key to the recipe. Like you get so low that there's nowhere else to go and you're like shit.
Hmm.
Sorry if I'm cursing. Um,
You good.
you're,
You can swear as much as you want.
you're like shit. I like I can't like there's nowhere like you're almost suffocating. You're like okay, I gotta do something. Like you get to a point where you just can't like no longer like your body is like already like almost like you're like on the verge of like not existing. And I'm not saying suicidal, but there's like another like in between that no one really talks about. But if you hear all of their stories, like Oprah, Tony Robbins, like all these greats, they will say I hit rock bottom. People who lost a lot of weight, and you ask them, how'd you get? Oh my God, you have such a crazy transformation. And every single person that I have spoken to is like Elizabeth, I got to a point where like I couldn't like I just hit rock bottom. And until you hit rock bottom, sometimes like nothing motivates you. And so I think that's another thing that I wanted to add to that. Like sometimes it's not enough, like
Yeah.
it's just not. You're not rocked enough.
And and you know what? Being at rock bottom is a blessing in disguise. It truly is. When I went through that whole significant in that experience, it was significant to me. It was like, whoa, this is weird. And I didn't think I was gonna be. I thought that was like the only time I would hit rock bottom, but that's just rock bottom emotionally,
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
person. And it was just a different space. It's just like whoa, and it just to you, but to use that as fuel to go out and meet people, get to discover yourself, and all these different things about yourself. You start to feel better bit by bit. I know a lot of people they're expecting to feel better like by a whole lot, but it's all happening by baby
Yeah.
steps. And then there's another rock bottom to where you like it's like a massive failure. Now, obviously, breakups and the ends of a relationship is also a failure, but I don't think it has anything. And but I think that's a different type of failure that's a different type of failure when it comes to failing in a startup, a business that you've had for a long time, and all this other jazz. because that kind of rock bottom, that hurts too.
Oh yeah.
When you've got no money, you don't know where to go. I mean, if you're lucky, you have your family to lean on and stuff like that. But and that kind of rock bottom is completely different. And I know a lot of people, especially myself, experienced that when the pandemic
Oh my
started,
God.
because I was supposed to live in Miami, but I ended up getting sent back to San Diego. But those are two different rock bottoms, and they're super significant. But there's a lesson behind it that you need to learn about yourself. You know what I'm saying?
I totally agree with you. I love that you clarified that, and just to add a little bit more, some of the work that I do is, spiritual and integrating, like you said, beauty for me is holistic, and I see beauty in everything, and I look at life through the lens of beauty. Like that actually saved my life. And so, you know, I call what, hitting rock bottom in the woo woo world is the death of the ego,
Oh
right?
yes. Oh, do go on that. Yes.
And so like there I think there are different parts of your ego, and people talk about shadow work and what the hell is shadow work, and like we're like, oh no, but you get to a certain point in life when you're like, oh crap, okay, I'm repeating the same thing, I'm dating the same people, and I don't know what's happening. Like I keep on dating my dad or my mom or my sister. Like what is happening? I don't mean literally, like I mean like people like, because I've dated people like
Yeah.
my dad who like to gamble, who love to buy women presents and are like playboys and like, obviously, right? So like I'm like, wait, why do they're all smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes, they all have addiction, just like my dad, and they're charmers. Oh my God, my dad was such a charmer. You have no idea, right? And so like I was attracted to people, and then I started looking back. I'm like, wait, what in the world is this? So just to get back to this death of the ego, there's so many layers to that. Like you said, there's like personal, like there's so many egos. Like think of them as little managers in your head, and they're managing different things,
Oof.
like your business, your relationships with your family, your relationships with your love partner, and like there are different phases of them. And so as you grow, they kind of die, and then you mourn them, and then you kind of up level. You get yourself a new manager or a new CEO, and he's like, oh well, I'm here to teach you about this lesson, and you're like, oh, I'm not prepared for that. And now, okay, I succumbed this situation, and now I learned my lesson, and now I'm dating a whole bunch of people who are this. What is happening? And it's like, oh, guess what? You got a new ego
Yes.
CEO, and he's trying to, or she is trying to teach you a new lesson.
Could you imagine how much ego died when the pandemic started?
Well, that's why everybody was so upset, because it's not fun. People talk about this as like, oh, I'm awoken, or I'm a woken person, and everything is so beautiful. Here's my crystal and rainbows and butterflies, and I meditate and and yoga, and like that's not that's not real. This is hard.
That's not, nobody
No,
talks
it's
about it.
horrible.
Nobody talks about when their ego dies. Because they become it. Because like if you got to talk about it and brag about it and stuff like that, I mean, it's okay to brag about, a little bit of things that did change. Like if you're someone that woke up in the afternoon, now you wake up at like, 3 in the morning, just to enjoy the rest of your day and stuff like that. That's cool. You can talk about that. But when people talk about, just crystals and, the chakras, all these different things, it's like, bro, just be about it, right?
Yeah.
And in Elizabeth, this is where I'm so glad you touched upon the ego thing, because that significant that trauma that you went through, there was a whole bunch of ego that was in there that had to
So
die.
much.
Just like and just like my experience in the past when I went through that significant breakup, I was like, okay, this definitely didn't work out because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it until a year later when I got into another relationship and that one ended, and I was like, oh, I'm up. I'm letting people push. I'm allowing people into my life that would try to push over me, that would disrespect me. I was allowing that. because I'm so forgiving and I'm so like and I know it's gonna blow over and and then it was another thing and there was another thing where my ego is saying, nah, don't stand up for yourself. Don't stand up for yourself. Don't stand up for yourself. When I was like, no, 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 no. That had to die. So I'm so glad that you touched upon this ego subject because I know there's a lot of people that are in relationships right now, in the wrong relationships, that are that ego is gonna come out, and the whole family is gonna come
Yeah,
out.
the whole team, everyone from the accountant to the assistant to the CEO to the manager to
Oh,
the CFO, like the whole the whole squad is coming
the
out.
whole the whole
Yeah,
401k is gonna come
seriously.
out and hit you.
And so,
And go
there, I can talk about all these things. I think it's clear that I've been through a lot of things in life and I love learning and I always say I'm a student of life. I incorporate so many different things into my life, into my work, into what I do. And I'm that person who's like more of a be about it than talk about it kind of person. So
hmm
when you said that people are with the wrong people, there are different components to that. And, sometimes unconsciously, we, as humans, we only are in two states. Like this is true for everyone. Like there's no what ifs, ands, or what. There are two states that we live in, and then those states have subcategories. So one state is love,
Yep.
which is like very rare for people to be in because you have to like do so much work on yourself and be in such a place so that you can be happy and love other people and be like, "Oh, I love you. I love the world. How can we collaborate? How can we work together because I just want to uplift people," right? Very rare. And then 99.9% of the people are functioning out of fear. And fear is not just being scared of something. There's so many emotions, anxiety, like there are just so many, like there's so many subcategories of that. And so when you talk about being in a, just even talking about the relationship, for the relationship portion, like there are people that are with people because they're afraid of moving on. What if, am I too old, am I too young, maybe I didn't look like how I did before, will anybody want me, should like am I financially able to do this by myself? There's just so many things. What are people going to think about me? People thought we had a great relationship, we were perfect, but now like we just broke up. Like there's so many things that, and everything you hear that I'm saying is from fear. What if, what will they
hmm
say? Because you're not so certain in yourself, and we've been taught, unfortunately, to live in shame, which is another state of fear, right? Because we're
mm
ashamed of saying, hey, it didn't work out, I love that person, we had great times and great memories together, but we grew apart, we're different now, and like it just didn't work well. And so like, as a society, we have been taught like you pick one person, you marry them, and that's it. And then, God forbid that you do something else, like you're bad, or you have a stain, or you're used goods, right? Like, especially for women, like I've gotten that,
hmm
like, oh, you divorced and you have a child, oh, you're you're no longer like this prize, virgin, like, oh, you're like second class citizen. And the same goes for people in relationships. And so this fear, and so once I'm like, no, that's, I'm sorry you feel that way, but that's not how I look at it. I look at it as like, to give you an example, when people, if people, and when, like, even my own father has said this to me, and I'm like, I don't accept that. Sorry, that's your belief, not mine. I know my value. And actually, yeah, so what? I was married and divorced. That just gives value to me. I know how to be a good wife. I know how to be a good partner. I know how to be a great mother. I already did that. Like, if you're going to have another child, like I already know all the ins and outs. So, like, basically, you have a pro over here. So, if that's how you see me as used goods, I feel bad for you because, these are all the things that I bring to the table and that I have to offer. So, if you can't see that, then you're not my people. And I've told my dad this. He's like, from a conservative background again, like, women have the stigma. So the same with the relationships. If you're not able to stand on your own and be like, no, like I have this to offer, that to offer, this is who I am, and it just didn't work out, and that's okay. For them, for me, we grew together. And so there's a fear of like standing in your own power that comes out of that.
Yeah, you know, and at the end of the day, people are just going to be people. Everyone's going to have a different point of view. I mean, like, I didn't have the same point of view as my dad and stuff like that. And, I mean, we see eye to eye on some things and stuff like that. And we don't see eye to eye on a few things. I remember I was being really stubborn, when my dad was trying to help me get over this one girl. And I was just like, and he kind of told me, he's just like, you're just letting people push over you. I didn't want to believe him. But then I went through this experience, and when I was in this relationship, um, where I remember there was an argument. It was over something so little, but I just don't understand why it had gotten to that. It gotten so big. And then we are going to Vegas the next day. Oh, the memories of just going to Vegas. And then I remember we were driving there, and I'm trying to say hello, be on good vibes. Next thing you know, there's a 4.5 hour silent
Oh
treatment.
no.
And I'm like, what is going on here? And like, is this about yesterday? I thought what's going on? Next thing you know, there's another example of this pushover. And I'm like, okay, that's scary. That's a very big red flag. And then, a couple months later that passed, the same thing started happening over and over. And then that's when that kind of caused me to end the relationship because, there was just so many things that I had to, learn. And, I kind of had to, I went back to my dad's like, you were right. I had to, you were right. And that kind of made me make the choice to, be single for a while because, there was a lot of discovery that I needed to make. So I can understand like where you're coming from when it comes to, talking with, going coming from a conservative background and all of that jazz. But I want to switch
Yeah.
gears on this one because you mentioned to me earlier that you were a model. You started at the age of 5, and then you have 16. How old is your
She's
daughter?
17
And she's in
in
the.
June.
Oh, okay. And she's basically following that same pathway as you did
Well, she
in the
no,
modeling.
she's not doing the modeling. I mean, she could be, but she's actually I think because she's seen me do a lot of like anti PR where like no pictures, no pictures. Like, first of all, because I was afraid that my ex husband would find me, because it was like a very sticky
Oh, okay.
situation. Not because I'm like, oh, I'm the shit, right? Like, yeah, I was acting out of fear for like so many years. So she is kind of like very reserved. For her age, she's not on social media as much. She doesn't take pictures. Like her pictures are like side pictures. Like you can't really see her face. It's so funny. She could be, I wanted her to be in the industry because she's so beautiful. Of course, she's my daughter. I'm going to say that, but she is. She's a beautiful soul. She's 5'10" already, which is a great height for a model. But she does go to the same military boarding school that I went to. So I guess in that regards, like academic wise, and she's definitely following my footsteps.
Wow, 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 wow. And that's definitely got a lot of just I can tell, going to school. It was you said a
Yeah,
military school? That's a lot of discipline already. She must have a lot of discipline
she
already.
does. She really does.
Okay, okay. And I mean, obviously you are an awesome guest to have on this podcast, Elizabeth. I just wanted to put that on there, to put that out there because, just you and me talking and just good you're just good vibes. I just want to put that out there. But you created this thing called the Beauty Circle. Tell the people about
Yeah,
that.
sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. I think you're an amazing host. I love our conversation. It's like touching on so many different things. It's like we would be on the phone just chit chatting. And so I love that kind of style. So thank you for having me on here as well.
Of
And so
course.
to tell you more about the Beauty Circle, it was a tool that I created that I was hoping to make an app on, and I've been debating back and forth, and I've had a lot of people like try to approach me on it. So I mean, there's just so many things that I'm dabbling in, that I'm trying to prioritize what I really want to like step my foot forward in. Um, so
Hmm.
basically, it's a tool that I created that I feel like it is one of the best things ever to do. I do it monthly. So what it is, it's a wheel, and you can get a free download like on my website. It's like download your free beauty circle. And basically, it has 10 different categories like water, skin, makeup, movement, relationships, joy, bowel movement, sleep, like all these different categories that I 100% believe through all the years in my industry that make you live like I want to say a beautiful life because I'm the beauty guru, right? But I want to say more like a holistic balanced life. So what happens is with this tool that you measure, so like for instance, you'll fill this out and you'll measure, okay, from 1 to 10, like you can circle it in. Like some people put it on their iPads and they just do it like with a pen, or some people actually print it out, do it with their families or their loved ones, and they circle like, okay, where am I at, like in my relationships? And that could be like with your family, with your friends, like coworkers. Like there's so many different kinds of relationships, and I talk about that in my YouTube channel a little bit, like how to fill these categories out. And so like basically you fill them out from 1 to
Hmm.
10 and you see where you're at in the category, right? And then you can fill out another one to see what you want to improve. And I usually have them like plastered. I'm a little old school, so I have like those old school calendars like on my wall, cuz I'm just old school and I love writing things.
Ain't no wrong with
So
that.
I post them on the calendar every month, and I'm like, okay, I want to work on my water intake, I want to work on my relationships, I want to work on movement, I want to work on skin. And again, skin is not like putting on makeup and stuff. It's like taking care of yourself, hydrating, cleaning yourself, being hygienic. Like there's so many categories to that. Even makeup. Makeup is not like just putting on makeup. It's like how much money are you spending on makeup? Or how much time are you wasting on it? Do you even need the makeup? Like there's so many things that go into that. So it's basically the tool that I made to help you like visually see where you're at. Like it could be daily, monthly, however many times you want to do it. Like I have clients that download it, they screenshot it, they fill it in, and they use it as their screensaver. So every time they look at their phone, they're like, "Oh God, I need to work on my water intake this month. That's my goal." And so like that's kind of how I use the tool.
Okay, okay, I like that. So, and it's
The
called the
beauty
beauty
circle.
circle,
Yep.
correct? All right, and ladies, if you're listening and you want to get the beauty circle, I think it's on your
Yes,
IG,
it's on
right?
my IG, on the link in my bio. And it's not just for ladies, it's for men and children as well. It teaches them good
Oh,
values, how to start like being mindful and like setting the proper mindset for success.
all right. And then let me. And your TEDx is on YouTube, correct?
So I actually got an email from the producers. I don't know when this episode is airing, but it should be out like probably Monday, because it was like one of the ones that was like still getting under reviewed because of the sensitivity of the topic. And they have to make sure that everything is correct and the timelines. So just waiting for that.
Okay, okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to find Elizabeth Molina, especially see her TEDx, it's coming out this week. So, look out for it on YouTube. Definitely, check her video out, check her story out. Definitely, down to earth person to have on the show. And pretty much, how can people find you? You mentioned you have a YouTube. I want people to make sure that they go to your YouTube as well. But how can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Elizabeth underscore Molina. And I'm also really active on Clubhouse. So it's at Elizabeth Molina. And I think you are also pretty active on Clubhouse.
I'm very active. Like I was on Latinidad para la Cultura, and just before this podcast because no, it wasn't that. It was Chingona AF. I'm not gonna, well, Chingona as fuck, put it
Yeah.
that way.
They have some funny groups there that like it's you could there's so many things there, networking, business mindset coaching, how to grow your business, just rooms to relax, room to meet each other. There's just so much on there, so I think it's a really great platform, especially since we're not going out. It's really like clubbing, like going from
Mhm.
room to room. Like you're going to the Spanish room, you're
Yeah.
going into the business room, you're going into the shark room with the shark people from Shark Tank. Um, so that's pretty cool. And then you can also find me on my website, elizabethmolinainc.com.
Ooh, okay. All right. ElizabethMolinaInc.com. Check her out, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely, someone you definitely want to see on YouTube, get to know her. Definitely an awesome person that I can't say enough about her. Okay. She's awesome already. We got good vibes. When you got good vibes with someone, it's just next level. It's none other. I mean, I can't say enough about how awesome she is. But Elizabeth, I want to say thank you for being on this podcast show. And I really hope you enjoyed. I really hope you enjoyed
I
this whole
did,
thing.
and I want to say thank you for having me. Like I said, I think you asked me some great questions, and every time I go on, I try like not to give the same kind of like thing because that's a lot of people do that, and it's so annoying.
I did my research, to ask the right
Yeah,
questions.
I
So,
see that. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being so gracious to have me on your podcast and share me with your audience. I really appreciate all of your support and yeah, we definitely had a lot of vibes and just great conversation. Can't wait to probably come back on here again and talking about something else that's really cool and new and just yeah, yeah,
oh,
for
we will.
sure. So thank you again for having me. I cannot say thank you enough.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. And, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for listening to How to Move On. If you guys find this information valuable, I want you to drop a like, drop a comment, drop a share if you can. And of course, subscribe to the podcast if you, or follow it. On my YouTube, I always say subscribe. But, definitely, of course, this is another episode on how to move on. Yes, another one, another one, another one. Until next time, ladies and